Hey dorks, just a quick message reminding you to head over to twitch.tv/mindgappodcast and give us a follow. We live stream when we record our new podcast episodes, and we're live streaming video game sessions on Saturday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Time. We're playing super rad stuff like Among Us, Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes, Jackbox games, and Tabletop Simulator. Come hang out and play along with us. That's twitch.tv/mindgappodcast.
Mind Gap Podcast.
Welcome to Mind Gap Podcast. I'm Doug.
Whoa, I'm Justin.
And welcome to another episode of, I think, the most riveting, the most self-aware, the most positive, and
The most humble?
you know what? I, too, am extraordinarily humble podcast that you'll ever dip your ears into. So welcome.
It's an honor to have you here, and it's an honor to be wherever you are.
Yes, indeed.
In your ears. It's an honor for you to let us come in your ears. Is
You know,
what we're trying to say.
I don't think I could have said that any better.
Thank you.
And I think it's really special that we all had this moment because that's what matters, you know?
And that's what
matters.
friends are for.
And that is truly what friends are for at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
This is a grand day because any day you and I can record something that can go out on the internet and ultimately, you know, haunt us in the future is a good day, you know?
That's right. Anything that can go out and be consumed by tens of people is a good day for everyone.
Yeah, you know, I sometimes think about that. My wonderful neighbor just a couple weeks ago goes, "Hey, we were on a road trip, and so I thought I'd pull up your podcast and listen to it." And I immediately went, ugh.
Because I know how you feel about this, and it's never, I get it, but it also has never made sense to me. The fact that you're like, yeah, let's do this podcast. I don't want to tell anyone I know about this.
Well, that's the thing is, like, she's such a sweet lady. She's so nice. And we
And
just
we're
said,
horrible.
we're coming in your ear right now. Like, I just, you know, I'm like,
Wait, how did you mean that? I meant it like we're arriving
yeah,
from a climax standpoint.
exactly. We're arriving through fluid into your ears, you know?
How many more times can we hammer that home throughout the episode?
I don't know, man, but let's put a counter up there. See what we can do. And we're off.
And we're off and running.
Yeah, but she
No,
was
I
like,
know.
"Hey, I listened," and I was like, which one? Which one did you listen to?" She goes, "I just picked one." She goes, "I think it was around the time Natalie was born." I'm like, just be careful, okay? Just be careful because."
Tread lightly.
And I was like, I felt really uncomfortable. I was like, this isn't. See, if it's someone that it's for, I don't mind.
Uh-huh.
Like if someone
Right.
would appreciate it, but it's like, you know, sweet woman, you know, and
Right.
just, you know, just like her kids are all like, I think the youngest is like 18, and he's really into video games, and like he recently asked Jill, like, "Hey, what's Doug's Twitch?" What's he stream? I was like, oh yeah, he shouldn't come to that. He shouldn't come to this at all.
Or should he? Because he is the prime demographic for us.
I don't think that he is. I don't think that he
really?
is. I don't think that's our prime demographic. But
You mean he's a nice human being?
well, I don't think 18-year-olds are really our bailiwick. You know what I mean? You know,
I don't know. We make a lot of fart jokes.
we do, but I don't know if they're really. I don't think it's a good fit, regardless. But I was like, you know, you don't have to if you don't want to. That's cool. Like you're always welcome, but
Yeah.
we do cater to grognards. You're right, Slotty. That's true.
You're not wrong.
You're not
I'm
wrong.
not going to argue that. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yes.
we're so happy to have you here with us. And just remember, you can always follow us on Spotify. If you're not listening to there now and you have Spotify, you can check us out there, as well as on Apple Podcasts, on Stitcher, through your Chrome browser, through all sorts of places you can find it. But just don't forget, we're there on Spotify. Don't forget to check out Our merch is also available on teespring.com/stores/2, 8. Got all of our good stuff there. You can check that out. As for the video game recommendation this week, all right, I'm going to level with you. I'm going to give you some inside baseball if you're listening. We're recording this a day after our last episode, so it's only been a day. So I don't know what I'm going to be playing yet. And I also can't comment on the Among Us stream other than I bet it was a fucking blast. So
I was going to say, I feel like we can say for sure, whatever you're going to be playing, it will be awesome. Mm-hmm. And whatever you played last weekend, it was a fucking blasty. And you should have been there if you weren't there.
Exactly.
Remember that thing that Slotty said?
Yeah.
when we called the emergency meeting, and he said, you got to go back and watch it again. But it was fun.
It was amazing. It was a real treat, and you're welcome. So, yeah, we'll just assume what happened. We all lied. We all argued. We all, wrongfully accused people and jettisoned them out into the void of space. But at the end of the day, we still love each other.
We're all still friends.
We're all still friends. So,
boo.
Boo. Wolf's Lore, hello and welcome back. Always good to see you, my friend. You are the newest member of this MindGap family, and we are happy you're here.
The MGU.
Gotcha. Slotty just said, remember when Justin and Noah fucked, and that's as far as I got, and I was like, hold on, what? Remember when Justin and Noah fucked the whole game? I'm like, also pause, like, what? When they fucked the whole game when they went on that horrific murder spree. There you go.
Right?
Now it makes sense.
Murder, death, killed, and then...
fuck me, slutty.
Exactly. And then that happened. One of my favorite things, as I've said this before, is quotes out of context. There's so many times that people say something, I'm like, can we just do a hard stop right there and just breathe in what this says, what this means, like just out of context? It's one of the best things in the world. It made me so
first
happy.
Introduced that to me when we worked back at assignment desk, and that was when we first met each other. I had never really heard the concept of quotes out of context. I'm sure I had somewhere, but never put like that or specifically called out when they happen. Yeah, and it has in the time since become one of my favorite things because
I absolutely love it.
Once you start thinking that way, you find quotes out of context everywhere.
It's the same thing like photos out of context too.
Right.
It's like it could be this really serious thing, but out of context it could be fucking hilarious. Like it's amazing. It's like, wait, what is happening here? I don't know the context, and that actually makes it magical, Right. It's the best. It's the best goddamn thing in the world.
I feel like whatever's happening in this photo probably shouldn't be happening in this photo until I know what's happening, and then I'm gonna go, that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes
tracks.
Sense.
Yeah.
That tracks. So Justin, ghosts. What do you think about them, huh? Are they bullshit?
I thought I had a ghost thing on here. I guess I don't.
I guess you don't.
Ghosts! Zoinks!
Ghosts!
Guys, we fuck around. We have a good time.
We do. Hey, we fuck around. So there was this thing that was sent to us. It was a video. It's like spooky moment. Ghosts appear to run across the Gettysburg field at night. I'm gonna post this in the chat right now, so you all can see it.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to take a moment to watch it, it's only 55 seconds. And you can definitely sound off live. If you're listening to this, just go to YouTube and Google Gettysburg Ghosts Run Across Road, and you'll see like all of these. I think it's really important to note that you need to watch something there's a whole bunch of different ones of these that are different lengths. Try to find the one that's as closest to a minute as possible, because I think that's really important. Because the initial video I saw of this, it's just, it's like, okay, I guess that could kind of be spooky. But when you see the full closer to a minute, you're like, well, I see what the problem is here.
Oh, you're talking about the one that was like 15 seconds.
Yeah. It's like,
whoa.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that kind of looks weird. But then when you back it up, you're like, oh, I can see what the real problem here is.
Again, specters out of context. Right? Or ghosts out of context.
Ghosts out of context.
Yeah. I made it unnecessarily hard. But yeah, like here's the thing. Let's start here and see where we each go.
Yeah.
Just general stances on ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start there. What is your general stances on ghosts?
I'm going to approach it the same way that I approach most supernatural things. Married with Gaming goes, why is the video always so shitty? That's also a key point in this. Wolf's Lore, we're going to get to that in just a minute, man. You're heading right in the right direction. But my general stance is, probably like most conspiracy theories and most other fantastical things in the world, boy, it'd be cool if it was true, you know? Because it's way more interesting to think that there are spirits or souls of people that are still lingering around this world. Because honestly, there's a little bit of relief in that, right? Because if there's a spirit hanging around, that means there's some kind of afterlife, right? So
whether or not it contains consciousness, though,
whether or not it contains a happiness, also hard to understand.
Is it just ectoplasm just kind of floating along?
Sure. You're just bored. You're stuck in one spot. Whenever you try to leave, you just get teleported back to the same place. It's like, you're stuck here. You're here to haunt this place until the wrong has been righted. Like that.
Right.
I would love to believe that, because I find it way more fascinating. I mean, think of all the movies we've seen that have ghosts, Ghostbusters, Ghost Dad, the ghost of Hiroshima.
The movie Ghost.
How could I miss that one, right?
Come on, yeah.
Ghost in a Shell,
Right.
There's all these amazing, ideas of that sort of stuff, which are fascinating. But, vampires are also pretty cool on paper also. It'd be nice if, that was a thing.
You can't disprove vampires.
I can't. You're right. I don't have empirical proof that they don't exist. Therefore, they do.
Guys, we're getting somewhere.
Trap. I trapped you. I'd like to think that, again, it would be fascinating, right? Because that to me just fuels my curiosity of like there's more that we don't understand out there, and there's more fantastical, because the other side of that is like they don't exist. You die and it's over, right? And that's
a very sad thought.
It's sad and it's boring. There's nothing exciting about that. So I get the whole like, oh my God, it would be cool if there was. It adds like a little more meaning, right? Because, oh man, this house is old. It's like, it sure is. And guess what? It's just old. There's nothing else about it. That shit creaks. There's rats that live in your place. There's all sorts of stuff. Someone was murdered here. I'm like, yeah. And their body's gone now, but I don't think they're hanging around, Sorry. Like, that's my typical thing. I sound like a real asshole when it comes to it, but honestly, if someone were to show me something that was like, okay, this is really kind of off-putting, or this will pique my curiosity, I'm all for it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all for, I'm open, but it's better be pretty convincing, because you pulled up a compilation of spooky ghost videos, and they were all horse shit. It was all stuff where it's like, people are just fucking around here, like Bigfoot,
Yeah.
Like, let's just see what we can do to generate some spooky vibes. Or maybe they were just fucking around and someone was like, see, this is evidence of real stuff. And it's like, all right, okay, fair enough. How about you?
Yeah. I, conversely, I can't definitively say that there are or are not ghosts. Obviously, I don't have empirical evidence to prove it. Therefore, they both do and do not exist at the same
time. They're the Schrodinger's cat of existence.
Ghost, right? Exactly. But I will say that I have bore witness to some weird shit. I can't recall specifics, but like I've seen weird shit happen, unexplainable shit. I've seen videos of unexplainable shit where I'm inclined to believe that it wasn't CG, it wasn't whatever. The ones that we watched the other day were absolute dog shit and completely, it just make you angry watching them, because like, come on, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
It's someone who really wanted to go viral.
Yeah.
But I have seen other stuff you've heard stories of. There's just too much. It's the same way I feel about aliens. I just sit there and go, there's just no way that there's not some form of truth to it. Now, whether it is a Casper, the friendly ghost type thing, if it's a Slimer type situation, I don't know. If it's a poltergeist thing, I don't know what the meat and potatoes of it is, but I am inclined to believe that there is some sort of something on that spectrum exists, like apparitions or things moving, spirits coming back through. I do think there's some validity to that, I'll say.
I get what you're saying. I feel like it's not an apples to apples thing like with aliens, because with aliens it seems like there's more science behind the concept that there would be life that does exist out there versus ghosts.
Right, but I'm saying as far as like not having evidence to prove that. It's
Fair.
one of those where sure, you can look and say statistically speaking, it's very likely, but you're still guessing. You're
Sure.
still saying at some point, because even scientists disagree with each other. And at some point the scientists have to go, in my gut, I know, I feel like this is true.
Yeah.
Like, because there are scientists who go, well, actually, I can make these numbers say the opposite thing, And yes, it's not apples to apples, but I'm in my gut, I feel like I just feel like there's something.
Yeah. And I would like that to be true because again, it opens up a whole realm of possibilities, about our life, and things that happen. And I think that as horrible as it would be to be a ghost wandering the planes of existence, at least you could be like, well, it's possible that there's something else there, like,
I don't know. There's part of me that feels like it might be kind of fun to be a ghost, depending on how much is available to you. Like, how much autonomy do you have? Can you just like fuck with people? Because I feel like that'd be fun for a couple millennia.
Yeah. Married with Gaming says, I will say I've had some strange experiences in my life, one involving a photo taken of my grandmother's casket and what appeared to be her spirit standing next to it. Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of that stuff out there, and I don't want to shit on anybody's experience or anything like that because I didn't personally experience it, but I think it's more fun to think about the what-ifs in those situations. I kind of liken it to, like, what if we won the lottery, sort of situation, playing fantasies and that sort of stuff. So by no way am I saying that photo is bullshit. I didn't see it. I wasn't there. I don't know. But it's just one of those things where I think people want to believe it so much because it's an explanation to something that's weird that's happening, Because
it's an explanation, but it's also not, because I feel like there's a bunch of other people who do want to explain it away, and they're going to look for every possible rational explanation. I would make the devil's advocate argue that aren't those people just as delusional as the people who think of ghosts are real, because they're looking for every possible reason to explain that ghosts aren't real.
Yeah. And I think, there's some discomfort in the unknown, right? If you can't explain something, that's a horrible state to be in as a human being, right?
Oh yeah.
You're like, what just happened? You're like, I don't know. And it's like, and your brains are like, well, we have to, so there has to be, something has to fill that blank.
Right.
Because if we don't fill that blank, it's a horrifying concept, Take
it from a micro level. When you watch a movie and it's left ambiguous, there's a little part of you that's like, but wait, what happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
You're like, you just
so now
need
you
to
take
know.
that on a mortality level. Yeah.
You're just like, I just saw something. I heard something in the woods. Like, something's whatever. And weird stuff happens, right? There's things that you can't explain, and sometimes it's the most unlikely thing, right? And it's like, I think that's what's challenging is we want to believe the fantastical because it's more interesting than the mundane. Or there's just some shit that'll happen that we'll never be able to explain because the circumstances for which it happened is just too weird, right? Like, I'm in a house. My house is haunted. I came in the kitchen one day and there was things that were knocked over. All the spices, the spike rack, it was knocked over. And I don't have a cat and I don't have a dog, and we were gone all day. What happened? Well, unbeknownst to you, there's a squirrel nest in your house, and squirrels got out and knocked it over. But you didn't see that, so you wouldn't know that. And it's like, that's a dumb example. I know it's a stupid example. All right. But the idea of
I know it was a misspeak, but there's a spike rack that you have in your kitchen, and
full of spikes.
There's also a nest of squirrels in your home that you're unaware of.
Yeah.
Because that's so much more plausible than
the point being is that weird shit like that would happen. You would never think, what's here is squirrels, because you don't know they exist. You don't know that they're there. Squirrels did it. You wouldn't know that. So it's like, what caused this? And so you go ghosts because you wouldn't think squirrels. You know what I mean? This is like a bad math equation is what this is.
I would love for there to be a person who explained everything with squirrels. Like that's anytime anyone says, well, it has to be ghosts, he's like, what about squirrels? That's just his go-to explanation.
Spice rack plus squirrels equals ghosts.
Equals ghosts.
That math checks out, man.
Whoa.
Oh.
He blew the lid off of this.
Fuck you, ghosts.
Wolf's Lore says, have you heard of the Flannan Isle Lighthouse disappearance? You said it was a case in the early 1900s where 3 experienced lighthouse keepers mysteriously disappeared from the isle they were stationed on. They had no way to get off. Dinner was set and chairs were flipped over like they left in a hurry. No coats or anything during a storm. They found a diary which was filled with weird passages in it. They never solved what happened to them.
I mean, if they're on a lighthouse, was it an island? The Flannan Isles, so I have to assume it's an island, right?
I would think that by definition that is what that is, yes.
Guys, I just solved the case. I solved it. They went into the ocean.
Yeah. So while we wait for the answer for that, but...
I just gave the answer.
True. Squirrels.
I didn't want to go there that early, but...
On that island, yeah.
All right, see, that one was weird because it's a nest of snakes, okay? Which is totally different.
Right. Threw a wrench in it. You don't know.
That's why the snakes came out. They freaked out. They ran away from their dinner. They're all petrified. They slipped. They fell into the ocean. They hit their head on the rocks. They bled out while sharks ate them. The end.
Agreed.
This is also in the early 1900s. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
They didn't know how to survive.
They didn't know what they were doing. When did this happen? Disappearances in the year 1900. No one knew how to investigate shit. What are you talking about?
So back to this Gettysburg video.
Yeah.
So now that we've established where both of us stand on ghosts, and again in the chat, please feel free, if you're watching live on Twitch right now, feel free to sound off of if you your thoughts on ghosts. I know you guys have been talking here, and listeners listening to the podcast, hit us up on social media, give us your thoughts on why or why not ghosts. What do you think of that as well? But this Gettysburg ghost thing. Initially, yes, it does look like, if you watch the 15-second clip, it looks like there is some sort of a spirit or specter or something coming across a field in front of some cannons as a car is driving down the road and they've got their headlights on. And it looks like this thing moves about, 5 or 10 feet, and then it just kind of disappears. And I would be willing to buy that until you back it up and you see the full minute version of it, and you see this car just beginning to drive down the street, and there is very clearly an impurity on the window. It's either moisture or it's like somewhere where the glass is warped or something, and the light is bouncing off of it. You see this happen at the beginning of the video, then in that same spot on the windshield, you see it happen again.
Yeah.
And after you see that, it's really hard to convince yourself that this is anything more than, and all the comments that Doug was reading to us when we were initially looking at this, all of them were like, yeah, it's a smudge on the windshield. What are we looking at here?
Well, if you want to talk about the percentages of likes to dislikes on these videos, they're pretty low. Pretty low in the high in the dislikes, low in the likes. It's one of those things where the first time I watched it, I literally was like, I didn't see it. Where is it? I'm like, it's here. And I'm like, where? And I'm like, that's a smudge. That's a smudge on the window. That's just, I don't see what we're talking about here. So, and Wolf's Lore brought up, or was it Married with Gaming, was like, why is the camera footage always so shitty?
Right. People know that you have a 4K device in your fucking pocket.
Yeah.
Everyone knows this, right? If not, I'd like to right now do a public service announcement and say, guys, you can change your settings on your camera. You've got a 4K device in your pocket. Go ahead and record it that.
Yeah.
Just
Or just, again, he's recording inside his from his car in a dirty window,
right,
with lights on at night. It's poorly lit. That's always when the ghosts come out, is when it's poorly lit. You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, they can't be seen, Doug. It's like a leprechaun.
What? No, that's not how it works.
Ghosts are like leprechauns.
All right, now tell me more. Do your math on how ghosts equal leprechauns.
Right. So most leprechauns. I don't know. I've got nothing on that.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to begin to try.
Wolf's Lore says that's the easiest answer, but with lighthouse keepers, they had rules. What? People don't break rules? I see people speeding all the time, Wolf's Lore. There are always 3 of them. It's like the Sith plus 1.
I'll show you when the chips are down.
Yeah, right? I'll show you what happens. They will eat each other. One was always to remain in the lighthouse, no matter what happened. It's like a truck full of money. One guy has to be in there at all times. He can't come out. To the other 2 in case of emergencies. That way, when supplies and people came in from the mainland, there would always be one person there to report back what happened. The fact all of them were highly experienced in the field and all of them vanished completely is what baffles people. What about Roanoke? Huh? 200 colonists just disappear? What happened to them? Also, at that time, terrible forensics. That was like 1700s and shit. Like, no one knew what the hell was going on.
I want Doug to write a book on history.
Yeah,
it was like 1700s and shit.
It was be a real quick book. I'll tell you that much. Bunch of fucking dum-dums. Dum-dums. That's right. That's what we want to do. We want to take something else fantastic and give it a more fantastic answer. Aliens.
Alien squirrels.
Aliens and squirrels.
Yes.
These are always possible. No, I agree. Like, those are situations, again, they're fascinating to think about because it's like, why did this happen? And we don't have all the answers, right? Hearing the things like, oh, the table was set for dinner, but no one, chairs were flipped over. Someone was supposed to stay in there. What happened? They broke the rules. It's like, yeah, I mean, you can fill in the blanks with all sorts of shit. Like, I in my mind, I'm like, I'm creeped out by the thought of that, right? Bad storm happens. They're not following protocol,
Let me ask this though, now that the more I'm thinking about this story, so people go, ghosts. What did the ghosts do with them? Did they consume the bodies? Like, yes, it's a weird story. What happened to them? But I would say, like, this disappearance. What is the leading? Like, what are the skeptics saying? Are they like it was aliens that abducted them, or ghosts that dragged them into the ocean or ate them? Like, I guess that's what it's mysterious, but are we drawing a conclusion from it?
Yeah. Because that is the other thing too, is just, with technology improving, most of the time this stuff, these sort of occurrences seem to dip, once people get smartphones and things that can take photos way better than your, disposable dog shit, cameras that you had, or Polaroids or things like that. All of a sudden, all these sightings just seem to take a huge dip once technology and surveillance sort of. But that's not to say that stuff doesn't happen. I mean, look at that report from months ago where, what was it, the Navy declassified footage of an unidentified flying object that the Air Force was tracking, and they're like, we don't know what this is. Like, we don't know what this is, which pissed me off because Tom DeLonge had a field day with that.
Oh, God, I'm sure he did.
He recently got he got quoted saying, he goes, I wouldn't have quit Blink-182 if aliens weren't real. Like, just... But he's still...
When you heard that, did you just lose your shit?
I was like, you're still doing Angels and Airwaves, you asshole! You're still in a band! First of all, Slotty, that's not true. He goes, Doug is that guy who yells, that's a Photoshop at every photo that's slightly unbelievable. I mean, I'll say, look, I'll look for imperfections. I'll look for things that's just like I'll give you a perfect example. One of the videos we watched of this ghosts was footage of a young boy laying in what appears to be their parents' bed. He's like laying sort of face down. He's got his blanket on him. The camera's on him for, I don't know, 30 to 40 seconds, and the blanket just mysteriously like moves off of his shoulder.
And then the camera is in a very odd position.
Yeah. It's like, that wouldn't be there. And then almost instantly, the parents come in like, oh my God, what happened? It's like, look, man, I've got a camera on my kid. I'm never looking at it unless she's making noise. Okay? So the fact that they were, and I was like, I didn't hear a door open. I didn't hear anything. It's like they were in the room with them. Like, that's just,
Because we're talking like less than 2 seconds later, the dad was leaning over, and
the mom's like, I don't like this. I don't understand what's going on. He's like, oh. But I noticed they didn't exactly wake the kid up either, because that's a bad idea.
Right. But you can hear the dad audibly saying that clip. He goes, "Did you see the blanket moved?"
He's like, oh.
Like, we don't need the exposition.
Yeah. And there's another one that was absolutely terrifying, but I don't see what it had to do with ghosts. There was, a toddler that stood up on the edge of their crib, like got up on their crib, climbed up, was standing on a very thin piece of wood, and was just going, ah, 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 and then they fell over into their crib. I was like, yeah, that's unsettling. Not cool, but I didn't see any ghosts in that room. The kid freaked out. I've done a lot of dumb shit in my sleep. A lot of dumb shit. Like, really stupid things where I'm like, in college, I was having a dream. I woke up. I had a lofted bed. I just jumped off. I didn't take the ladder down. I just went. I remember sitting on the floor being like, why the fuck did I just do that? Like,
wow.
I'll tell you what, ghosts. Ghosts made me do it. So
his roommate woke up and Doug was, ah, ah. I would shit myself if I woke up and there was a Doug standing over me going, ah. I would lose my mind. I would just start swinging at that point.
So says, ever hear your child talking to themselves the night before they can create words and sentences, and then watch them looking out into the darkness while they're doing it? Yeah, it's unsettling, but they're also kids.
I wish we would stop that kind of shit, because that gives me fucking goosebumps. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, it's like, especially when you're not used to hearing your kid like talk. They're just making noises. You're like, what the fuck are they doing? They're like, blah, 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 blah. You're like, huh? Okay. Yeah. So
I'm very quickly understanding, because Drew has for a long time said that one of his greatest fears is in a very normal way, little girls, right? Like, or little children. But we're talking about specifically like those girls from The Shining, like any sort of like ghostly childlike figure, specifically like a little girl with that high pitched little girl. Like, there's something you can easily make that very unsettling. And I'm very quickly understanding where he's coming from, because the more of that kind of shit that I see, the more I'm like, yeah, that's fucking terrifying. I think what it is it's the innocence of children. And it's like, there's no motivation there to lie. So they're like, yeah, I'm talking to so-and-so. Don't you see them? And then you're just like, well, that's fucked. We're all going to die. Burn the house down. Leave them in it.
What in the world? Yeah, for sure. And I think it's also just one of those things where I think you nailed it, because it's similar to, it's like the reverse situation where we hate when kids are the victims in situations because they're trusting, they're innocent, right?
Right.
So it's the reverse of that, where the child who we assume is innocent is actually has the malicious intent, and that is very unsettling to us. In a lot of ways, and for good reason. Like, it's an interesting concept, which I can see why, people would feel that way about it. They're like, I don't like it. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
That checks out.
And Married with Gaming, you're right. Burning the house down only releases the ghost squirrels, so you can't do that. Never
it turns
burn the house down.
The squirrels into ghosts, and then you're really in some shit then.
Right, because what kind of nuts do you think they're coming after then?
That reminds me, there's an episode of Rick and Morty where Morty asks Rick to build him something, and Rick's just being an asshole. He's like, I want to be able to, understand what animals are saying. He's like, fine, here you go. He builds him this thing. He puts it on his head, and like, Morty's going around pointing at different things, hearing what they're saying, and then he just sort of nonchalantly points at the squirrels, and they're like planning like a coup. And they're like just very much like and then what we'll do is when they notice Morty's looking at him, they're like, hey, that kid's looking at us like he can hear us. And Morty like kind of freaks out, and he turns away, he goes, hey little boy, can you hear us? And he's like walking, all of a sudden all these squirrels sort of like start converging on him. like, get him. And he runs into Rick. The Rick's like, oh my God, the one thing you listen to is the squirrels. He's like, we're fucked. We got to get out of this dimension. We're screwed. The squirrels are onto us. We got to go. Like, he's like, say goodbye to this reality because we're leaving right now. It's like one of the best fucking things in the world.
Like, he knew that the squirrels were dangerous. And
Morty's like, why didn't you tell me? He goes, I didn't think you were going to be that fucking stupid. Like, just... He's like, pack your shit. We're leaving.
Watch the show. This is right up my alley,
dude. Seriously, oh my God, dude. Oh, there's an episode where there's multiple realities of them, and it's amazing. Like,
is it the one where they can't? There's a replicator, and they can't figure out. There's an episode that I saw where like there was like a stick figure person, and like he was. Oh God, what? We'll come back to it. Don't worry about it.
Well, there's an episode where I think it's season 2, episode 1, where they had frozen time for a really long time.
Okay.
And then when they started it back up again, it created. Sonny goes, there's about 4 or 5 episodes that fit that description.
I realized the futility of what I was doing, so I stopped.
But because they started up time again, it created a little bit of uncertainty. And anytime they were unsure, it created a split in their reality. So they were existing in 2 places at the same time. And I think it references Schrodinger's cat, where he's like, we both exist and don't exist because you assholes are so uncertain. We're splitting up. And so like it's a phenomenal episode. Like the writing on it is absolutely ridiculous. It's phenomenal. But you just see this point where they're splitting into all these different personalities, and Rick thinks his other personalities are trying to kill him. So it's like, it's fucking incredible. You'd love it. It's so good. Oh yeah, Mr. Meeseeks? Oh God, that episode.
What was that? Hold on, what was that episode?
Hi there, I'm Mr. Meeseeks. Nice to meet you. That one's essentially Rick gives Morty's family a box, and if they press it, it creates this creature called the Meeseeks.
Okay.
And you ask them to help you do something, and they help you do it, and as soon as they're done, they die. But that's like what they love. That's their preference, because that's their existence. Okay. But Morty's dad asks him to do something, and Morty's dad's really bad at it, and the Meeseeks start living longer and longer, and they start getting really haggard, and they start getting really pissed off and violent, and it's really, really funny.
Hold on, I gotta do this, Rick and Morty, because it's gonna fucking drive me up a wall until I can figure this out.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's it's seriously, that's a show. I haven't watched Schitt's Creek yet, but I have to imagine it's similar to your, Schitt's Creek.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's this. Oh God. I don't know how to
describe it.
Yeah. I don't even. Again, it's like a pale hot dog in a blue shirt.
Oh, is that Mr. Poopy Butthole?
Yeah, that's the one. I think that name sounds right. But there was one. Fuck it. I'll find this. Don't worry. I'll find it, and I'll come back even stronger the next time.
Because there's an episode where they get like infected with parasites that burrow into your memories.
Keep going.
And they want to escape and infect the world, so they burrow in, and there'll be someone that's been there that you think has been there for 15 years, but it's just a parasite.
That's the one. Yep.
That one is fucking phenomenal. That's one of the first episodes my brother showed me, and I was like, that one is amazing. Like, the insanity that happens in that one is crazy. Jesus Christ, Justin really does describe things like Noah.
Telling you.
Those two, you two are spirit animals, man. I'm telling you. Kindred spirits. You got it, Slotty. That's for sure.
So ghosts.
So let's go back to ghosts real quick. Specifically Japanese ghosts, because no one does ghosts quite like the Japanese.
Very true.
And there's this amazing article that we found that honestly was provided to us. Let's not hashtag credit where credit's due, Justin.
Right. And we did no research on this.
And they said, like, these are like the top 7 ghosts that exist in the Japanese culture. And I'm just going to switch over to that now so y'all can see it. But there's a couple of different ones. And this first one here is the Kuchisake Onna, which is a murderous woman with a hellish gaping mouth. And supposedly the legend about this ghost is her ghost appears as a beautiful young woman wearing a surgical mask, holding a sharp weapon like a pair of scissors. She approaches people at night and asks them a question with sinister intentions. She says, "Am I beautiful?" If you answer no, she will kill you instantly. If you say yes, she removes the surgical mask, revealing her gruesome mouth. With a big smile exposing sharp teeth, she'll ask, "How about now?" An answer of no will result in you being dismembered by the ghost. Say yes, and she'll make you as beautiful as she is by slicing your own mouth from ear to ear. An encounter with a Kuchisake Onna is a lose-lose situation, always resulting in death.
And Slotty brings up a perfect. This ghost could be anyone these days. Like,
Yeah.
what a great concept for a horror movie this would be.
Yeah.
Because everyone's wearing surgical masks now. Like, this would be impossible to tell.
Yeah. Oh yeah, then there's Justin's other favorite right here. The good time to transfer over there. That is the Jorogumo, the carnivorous spider.
Are we gonna get taken down on Twitch because of this?
I mean, I don't think so, but
Cool.
we'll just go ahead and just transfer off of that just in case. I mean, it's a ghost
You
doing
all
ghost
saw
shit.
it? Yeah.
Twice. Apparently, it's a seductive spider ghost, based on the real golden orb weaver spider.
Which, in fairness, that spider is sexy as fuck.
Yeah, man. Legend says when a spider reaches 400 years old, she will transform into a Yoragumo and develop an appetite for eating young men instead of boring bugs and birds.
It happens.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It happens.
And there was, what was the other one? Oh yeah, this guy. He's the best. The Kappa, the quirky river demons.
Oh yeah.
You know, they're crazy. They have a shell like a turtle, green scaly skin, and a plate on its head to fill with water at all times to stay alive.
And they steal pickles.
They love to pull lost children and animals into the water to drown and eat them. And
They're a playful bunch.
They still like to eat cucumbers, but also human intestines.
What an interesting piece of specific backstory on this one.
Yeah,
What a very interesting detail.
I always find it fascinating, the different ghosts or demons or those kinds of stories that pop up in different cultures.
Yeah. And it's funny because a lot of them have very similar crossovers. Like,
Yeah.
you can see where different cultures probably have influenced each other, and there's very similar through lines through all of them, but they all have their own unique elements to them as well.
Well, it's also interesting, the idea of what is hell to one culture versus another. Because typically for us, the idea of, of Western culture or the Christian faith or whatever, because I am a fundy Christian, is that hell, it's fire, you're burning and all sorts of stuff like that. But when I took a class in college, it was a medieval literature. The idea of that to say a Norse culture would be heaven, because to them being warm is awesome because they're mostly in cold areas. So there was, I think it was either in Beowulf or another similar story where their idea of hell is in the afterlife, you get strapped to a tree that's over freezing water, and the tree is constantly moving you, getting you closer and closer to the water, where there's these demons in the water that will come up and try to get you and take bites off of you. So not only are you freezing in the cold, but there's this horrific pool of awful things trying to eat you at all times. I'm like, yeah, that sounds pretty terrible.
I don't like that. Yeah.
Yeah. But the idea of how that's different from culture to culture is always fascinating to me.
Yeah. Well, I've heard it even described where heaven or hell could be currently what, like, someone on a very esoteric level who was like, you're currently occupying someone else's heaven or hell, and talking about how you may die and then come right back into an element of this life that is the worst possible thing you could ever possibly conceive of. And so they're like, even for people who aren't religious, they still have explanations of a heaven and hell. So I feel like that transcends a lot of different, not only cultures, but philosophies too.
Well, again, it goes back to things that, explaining the unexplainable, right? Like being able to, that's why there's polytheistic religions, right? They have different gods that manage different parts of nature or the universe. So if something's mad or if things not going well, it's got to be, you can explain it with the idea that this god is taking its wrath out or is displeased.
Absolutely,
and is in charge of that sort of stuff, which is really, really cool. Hello, Noah Reno.
Welcome
Welcome.
back.
Wolfslore says he has a different podcast that he listens to that talks about that weird occult and paranormal creatures and stories from all around the world. What's inspired some of them. It's super fascinating. It's called the Chilluminati Pod. Interesting. So if you're
That sounds
interested in
cool.
checking that shit out, the Chilluminati Pod, highly recommended by Wolfslore. So
Sounds like they do far more research than we do.
maybe, maybe not. Who knows? Anything's possible.
Yeah, but it is interesting to see, the different cultures and how they have their, and how they can make their way into different pop cultures and different, like, for example, The Ring, like the idea of that, like the female water demon or whatever, that where it's the girl with that hair, that imagery comes up quite often in Japanese horror and lore. But it made its way into our Western culture and our pop culture through that movie, and then that's become a very popular trope now. Or like one of those, I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but it's like basically a ghost, a young boy who's all white and he's got like jet black hair and he's usually in like a loincloth or something. That's another one that is very typical in different cultures, that has made its way because it's so different and unique.
Mm-hmm.
It flourished in our imaginations here.
Well, not only that, too, the idea of what a hero is, which we've talked about before, varies from
Right.
culture to culture. Like, I think that's why so much anime is so popular over in America, is because the idea of good and evil is so much more nuanced in their culture. And the idea of, like, what a hero is, the idea of sacrifice is huge over there. And I think that is kind of a foreign concept to most of the United States, and the idea of what sacrifice means.
Yeah. So, yeah, sacrifice is a concept. Like sacrificing for the honor of something is a very foreign concept to most Americans.
Well, I think bringing up the movie 1917, there's that's purely about two soldiers who are trying to deliver a message in less than
Right.
24 hours, because if they don't, a whole battalion of troops will die. So
Right.
the idea of like, we have to do this, especially if there's a situation where you don't know anyone over there, but it's like, I need to do this because no matter what, I have to deliver this message, because I have to make sure that these soldiers are saved. Like,
Right.
I've never been in a situation like that, where I'm
Nor
like,
have I, and
if
I
I
think I
don't
would
send
be
this
horrible.
email, people die. Like, I don't have that sort of situation. If I don't tweet about this, the world might be a little worse off because of it.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think we see it in different movies all the time, like with Lord of the Rings. Like Frodo
Oh.
was allowed, or I mean, obviously movies starting back in the stories or the books, but he was willing to sacrifice himself for the great. Like, I'll get this to the mount and throw it back in, and I might die, but I will save everyone else. And
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of people, if forced, and this goes back to the paradox thing that we always talked about, is like, would you sacrifice one for the many? Would you sacrifice yourself for the many? And I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of people, at least in Western culture, don't have that mentality or don't have that same sense of duty to everyone else.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't exist. There's a lot of our idea of individual freedom, is great, but there's always side effects to that stuff. The idea of my personal progress, my personal journey, my personal success matters, and other people, it's like, yeah, you're allowed to have that, but to me, it may not matter as much, and
Right.
it's kind of an unfortunate side effect to a lot of that sort of stuff. And I think it may have existed at some point in time, but it's hard to find these days where someone's like, I'm going to sacrifice, for the
Right.
greater good,
I do think that we are seeing kind of on a very micro level, a renaissance of that happening, where like you see some of these like neighborhood activists and people doing good for, basically, instead of like worrying about what their legacy is going to be, they're like, how can I set up our youth, or how can I set up our neighborhood for generations to come? And there's a lot, I think, we're seeing in the social, I know it can be a dirty word, but the social justice realm, where people are actually doing things for good, and it's for very altruistic reasons and not for very selfish reasons, to make themselves look good. They're doing it. And if they don't get the praise, that's fine because, again, it's happening on a neighborhood by neighborhood level. And I think I'm hoping that'll start to spread to a more like a grander level, that it's going to become regional and then, national. And we all start to move back towards that, because I mean, anytime you think about improv, right, it goes back to improv rules, which I think if society could live by improv rules a little bit more, I think we'd be better off.
Yeah.
Where it's, I've got your back. I'm not going to worry about me. I'm going to worry about everyone else on stage. And if I do that, everyone wins. And then everyone else is worried about not themselves, but everyone else on stage. And so the more you can start, like, it amazes me every time I think about the fundamentals of improv, how applicable it is to living better as a society. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I would love to see us move more towards that.
Just listening, right? As I interrupted you, just listening, to what the other person is saying, it's being able to listen is phenomenal. I actually watched this really cool, like, under 5-minute TED animation about the idea of how to change someone's mind, or changing people's minds, and what's included in that. And I'm not going to remember all of them because it was just a quick thing, but the idea was that
obviously it didn't change your mind,
because it was like beliefs, and then there was 2 other things. But the thing that I found interesting was they showed that people are more willing to accept someone else's opinion if it's different from theirs, if they come from the same idea of beliefs. And the example they gave was, there was a mathematician who in the, I think, early 1900s created a proof that really went against everything that had been done up to that point in time. Okay. But he's like, hey, look, this kind of like flies in the face of it. But because everyone in that field had the same belief about how a proof works and how it operates, they were able to look at that and they were able to change their mind because they all spoke from the same belief structure, which I thought was fascinating.
That's interesting.
I really wish I remember what the other 2 were. But it's like the whole idea of, I'm still dealing with the fact of how can you communicate to people these days in such a volatile and angry and divided place, and things like that I think are so important. I think one of them was like understanding the values of the person, and they gave an example of, they kind of went to the political spectrum of this. They said they interviewed some folks that leaned on the liberal side, and they found that most of them valued what was it? Fairness over loyalty. So for them, fairness meant making sure that everyone was taken care of versus loyalty. So when they brought up the idea of, the military and why serving in the military is important, the approach that worked better for them was approaching it from, the military is good because it provides jobs. It provides an opportunity to go to college. It provides all those things. People who lean in that direction found more, it was easier to influence them from that approach versus like, hey, if you join the military, it shows that you're loyal to your country. Like, that didn't work with them. Right. So it reminded me a lot of like the DISC behavioral stuff that I've studied and things like that, where it's like, if you understand the other person's personality and you understand where they're coming from and you can communicate in their language, you can help have a better communication style. And I think that's what is grossly missing nowadays is, how do I reach these kids? How do I connect with this other person? And it starts with being able to talk, discover where their beliefs are coming from, where their values are coming from, where this other one that I can't remember is coming from, like understanding those sorts of things as you're having a discussion. Because that's why I liked at the end of it, it's like, well, how do you know what it is? It's like, well, you have to start talking to people. And as you talk to them and you listen, you'll start to understand these things, and then it's possible that either maybe you'll change someone's mind or they'll change yours. And it's just, how do you appeal to that? Or it's not like, it sounds like manipulation, but what it is just like, that's how you have a conversation. And I feel like the art of the conversation is so far gone that we're really in desperate need of like being able to actually have a debate. And a debate doesn't mean that at the end of it, I get to cut your head off and put it on a pike outside my house as like a trophy. It means we debate. Some points, you do well with, some points I do well, and vice versa. Someone's probably going to have more points than the other, but the idea is that we're going to debate, and at the end of it, hopefully we'll both be better for it at the end.
Right. I feel like that's definitely an art that has been lost big time over the years because, I mean, our biggest debating platform is presidential elections. That's the biggest debate that anyone's, maybe some of the only debates that people are really ever going to see in their lives, unless, you know, you watch a ton of news or you follow a ton of politics or are a nerd and you're in the debate club. But like, that is like the biggest platform debate that most people will see, at least from the United States perspective. And it has turned into, in the last 2-3 decades, it has turned into just nothing but, it's not discussing differences of opinions and trying to hash out who's right, or not even who's right, hash out finding middle ground and finding truths. It is just a pointing of fingers, a slinging of shit, and how can I tear this person down more than they're going to tear me down? And it's become very divisive, very hateful, very just anger filled. And
Yeah.
I don't know how we go back to having like civil discourse. Like how do you go back to having an educated counterpoint?
I think part of it is just losing the team mentality. It's like, I want my team to win. I want my team to win at all costs. And if my team wins, even more so, I'm going to rub it in your face when my team wins.
Right.
And that is just the worst. It's just like, it's constantly stabbing. It's this poisonous circle that we're getting into. It's like, I want to dunk on this person, like I want to, there's this guy on my route to take my daughter to school. Just without diving too far into politics, I live in Illinois. It's mostly Democratic. It leans that way for the most part. My town in particular leans in that direction. And there's one guy on my route that is a staunch Trump supporter. And part of me is like, you know what? I respect it because you're surrounded by people that most likely don't feel that way. Right. But this guy has doubled down in recent weeks because he had a Trump sign out. I was like, you know what? That's a bold choice. I respect it. And then a little bit later, there was another sign. And then another sign. And now I've seen there's 3 or 4 handmade signs.
Oh, boy.
That are out there.
We're getting an artsy craftsy over here.
That are really out there. And I'm sitting there going, like, as we get closer to Election Day, I'm wondering what's going to happen. Like, if Trump wins, what's this guy going to do to, like, flaunt that? You know what I mean? Because that's what it's going to be, right? This guy is in it to win it for his team. Right. Or the other side of it is, like, if he doesn't win, because he's tripled down on this, is anyone going to come by and, like, mock him? Because that's the thing, right? It's the idea of, I think what we're confusing it with justice. Like, there's going to be justice here where I'm going to come on and be like, you and your dumb fucking signs. Look at this shit. Like, you spelled this shit wrong on your sign. You're a dumb shit and you lost. I'm going to take your sign. I'm going to throw it down. It's like, that doesn't help. It's tempting. Motherfucker, is it tempting to basically want to go by that guy's house and be like, what the fuck's wrong with you? But also part of me would be like, tell me why you had one sign. There's 7 now. Why? Like, what about this is making you just go to this extent? Because I am curious and I would love to have a conversation with someone. I think it would be a good challenge because I'm not going to agree with it, obviously. Right. Especially if it's not factual. But maybe I could get just a glimpse into something that's like, what's going on here? What's happening? Because I think at the core, there's going to be some sort of fear. There's going to be some sort of motivating factor as to why something like this needs to exist. And I've said it a bajillion times. I'm going to say it one more time. In a time, in an era of human history where we have access to more information we've ever had in our entire existence, we're a bunch of fucking morons who are spreading misinformation. We're lying to each other. We're using confirmation bias to drive us to a point of just pure recklessness and tribalism. And it's really fucking depressing. What up, Duffies? He says, welcome. What up, hoes?
Because the thing is that you got to think about, like, if, obviously Illinois, for those not in Illinois, Illinois leans blue because of Chicago and most of the surrounding suburbs. But most of the rest of the state, I feel like from what I've heard, unless it's changed, most of the rest of the state, pretty red. But Chicago and its suburbs are so dense with people and population that it swings the state blue. That being said, if most of your area is Democratic and most of it does lean blue, you look at that guy and you do think like, are you putting 7 signs in your lawn as a middle finger to everyone else? Is this a I'm proud and I'm not fucking afraid to say I'm proud? Is it like a defiant thing?
Mm-hmm.
Or does he feel attacked? And does he feel like he's almost got to put up a fort or a perimeter? Does he need to build a wall of signs, if you will?
Yeah,
you
right.
know?
Oh, I see what you're doing.
And save himself from outside thought immigrating into his lawn. I don't like you kind of wonder which way is he approaching it from.
I think it's probably a little bit of both. He wants to be defiant. He wants to, make a statement. I'm proud to live where I live, even though I'm in the minority. This is what's going to be. Duffy's goes, we should ask the UK if they will date an ex again. We can't govern ourselves.
Yeah.
Wolf's Lore says, just put up more obnoxious signs in your yard. Show support for the God Emperor and the Imperium. That's right. The Emperor protects,
Harumph.
Speaking of gods, we had an excellent question that was asked to us that can an omnipotent being create a rock?
Wait, how'd you pronounce it?
Oh, I'm sorry. Can an omnipotent being create a rock too heavy for itself to lift? I mean,
that's a good question.
That's a good question, right?
That's a fun debate one, yeah. Let me explain to you why you're wrong, and all of your philosophies are wrong.
Okay.
Because you're a fucking idiot.
Listen here, you dumb son of a bitch.
Right. No, it's a good question because like if all powerful, all knowing, all whatever, has no limitations, can they create something that then that then causes themselves to have limitations, but in doing so redefines their entire being as false? Like, that's really what we're asking.
Sorry, Slotty just redeemed a word ban on omnipotent.
That's one.
So in case you're not familiar with this, if you're not on Twitch, we have points that if you hang out with us, you earn points and whatever, and you can redeem them. And one of the things we have is like a ban on a word that you can do. It lasts for 5 minutes. And and then we had it so that if I do say the word, I have to do a sit up. So it's one of those things. But I like that. It was much respect. Much respect.
Yeah, I would say that no. By definition, this being is so powerful that they cannot create something that would basically render their existence to be false.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. You tell me an omnipotent being can't kill themselves?
I mean, what? I was going to go dark. Maybe. I need you to pull me out of that one. Yeah, I don't know. I suppose they could kill themselves. I suppose they could. Oh man, yeah. Could they manifest themselves out of existence?
I would think they'd have the ability to do that, right? They're so powerful, they should be able to eliminate themselves.
Yeah, but we're not talking about eliminating themselves. We're talking about, well, hold on. What is this? Having unlimited power, able to do anything. So, okay, yes. So then in that regard, they would be able to...
Watching the hamster wheel in Justin's head as the hamster's like, trying to figure it out.
No, because I'm debating myself in real time. Like you're watching it happen right now.
Yeah.
Shoot, I guess by definition, then maybe I need to flip flop on my position. By definition, if they're powerful enough to do anything, then creating something that they can no longer control would not be outside of their realm of power.
Yeah. Duffy
But
says,
then
I
you
think the
go-
hamster tripped.
Oh, dude, that hamster is suffering massive strokes right now. I'm very concerned for the hamster.
Yeah.
But in that same vein, though, Doug,
Mm-hmm.
if they create something that they can no longer manipulate or control, have they then put a limit on their power, rendering them non-omnipotent?
Yeah, let's go back to the main point. My point was, I think an omnipotent being could kill themselves because they're powerful enough to create their own end. That makes sense. But
Yes.
are they able to create something that is so powerful, like something as simple as create a rock that they can't lift?
Right.
Then do they cease to be omnipotent at that point in time?
Yes, because again, by definition, having unlimited power, able to do anything.
Yeah,
So they
because
would
if
be
they
able
if they
to
can't do
create-
it, then
Right.
they're not omnipotent, and if they can do it, they're not omnipotent.
Exactly right. So basically, we have caught Dormammu in a time loop. Is what we've done.
That's amazing. I love
It's
it.
a really great paradox or
Mhm.
riddle. It's a really, really good one. I very much like this.
Yeah.
I'd be very curious to see. I know there's a lot of jokes going on in the chat, but I'd love to hear what the Twitchers think, and I'd love to hear what the listeners to the podcast think too. Like, is that something? Can someone do that? Can someone who's omnipotent do that?
Yeah. I'm going to lean with the fact that they can, and in doing so, they sacrifice their omnipotence.
I would have to agree with that. I think that they could make it, but then in doing so, they render themselves neutral again.
Semi-potent.
Semi-potent.
Which was my nickname in high
Wait,
school.
why do we need an email address for this, Lottie? I don't think we do.
Oh, gotcha. If you want to email us your thoughts, it's mindgappodcast@gmail.com. Send us your
Why
thoughts.
would you want to email us? I don't want to check that now.
Why? That's the whole point of having an email.
Yeah. All right. You going to open up all the dick pics we're going to get, Doug?
I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
God, that looks so gross and phallic.
Followed by...
I just ejaculated my moist missile.
Justin, you gotta take a look at this pic. It is amazing. You know what I mean?
Fuck me, slutty.
Yeah. Duffy says, figured we would send feet pics and stuff. Crucial point in the omnipotence debate. Here's my hairy feet.
Wait, what? Why are we... What? No.
I don't understand what this has to do with hobbits. I don't get it. They're hobbit feet.
I
Amazing.
have another question for you.
Yeah.
I have a question. If an omnipotent being were to go up, could it duplicate itself? Could it replicate itself and then fight itself? And if so, would it win against itself? It's also called the throwdown paradox.
Welcome to the Throwdown.
Yes, it is that time once again. We have entered the throwdown, the realm of which two things enter and one thing leaves.
That was really good, Justin.
Thank you. Off the top of my dome.
I know. That was really good.
What does Wolf's Lore say here? I mean, that would make sense that they could. I mean, considering gods in certain mythologies could give up godhood.
Yeah.
Duffy's making a very, not having been here the entire time, making a very apt callback saying aliens.
Yeah, Slutty, I'm not going to repeat
Moving
what you said, but yeah.
Yes.
That's true.
So the throwdown.
Back to the throwdown.
Back to the throwdown. Today we're gonna do two. We've done one of these people before, and we're gonna bring him back, and we're gonna go up against another monster hunter. So it's going to be Blade. Sorry. Today's throwdown is going to be Blade versus Geralt of Rivia.
Dun,
Geralt of Rivia.
dun, 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 which I think this is a fantastic throwdown because you've got sword masters, you've got some supernatural elements between them. They're both extremely accomplished. So here we go.
Here we go.
Here we go.
So let me pull up what we have here. We got. I looked up and I put links to the heroes' powers because while we generally know them, I think it'd be good to really kind of. Okay, here we go. Bum 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 bum. All right, let's start with Geralt. Or how do you say it?
Geralt.
Geralt.
Mm-hmm.
Geralt. Geralt.
Geralt.
Geralt.
Geralt.
He's a master swordsman. He's got enhanced strength, speed, and senses. He's got signs. I hate reading these things because they make it sound
spins these
so
like you wouldn't believe.
stupid.
He's like, check out these signs.
He can do the alphabet in under 5 seconds.
That's right.
High intelligence, vast monster knowledge, healing factor, increased metabolism. He can eat a whole pizza and it does not affect his figure.
That's right.
Whatsoever.
That's
also,
true.
hard time getting drunk.
Yeah.
Yes. Blade is immune to bites of typical supernatural vampires. He is immune to vampire hypnosis, so I would presume that would kind of spill out into other spells. He lacked superhuman physical attributes, however, relied solely until he got them. Let's see. So yeah, he healing factor, heightened senses, speed, agility, stamina, strength, master martial artist, boxing, capoeira, eskrima, jeet kune-do, hapkido, jiu-jitsu, Shotokan karate, kung fu, ninjutsu, skilled swordsman, marksman, street fighter. He's adept in the usage of throwing knives. He's highly knowledgeable about vampire lore as well as the general supernatural. So, I don't know, man. I mean,
it also
you're
says,
a big fan of The Witcher.
Yeah, it also says that he has a rapid healing factor that attacks any alien substances, chemicals, or viruses in his body. The healing factor also eliminates any chance of him being rendered helpless or maimed from the inside. He's unaffected by daylight, and he ages slowly. So here's what I'll say. I like where Wolf's Lore is going with this. So
what do you say here?
He's like, Geralt would win. He's absolutely experienced in fighting vampires. He has various potions that heal or enhance his senses further. He has protection and signs and spells, as well as slowdown, fire, and basically force push. Plus, he has oils that make his blade cut easier through various types of monsters.
That is a heavy stack in his favor.
Because that's what I was going to say is like Geralt has fought vampires before. Like he's fought those kinds of creatures. So while Blade is obviously an accomplished, everything, he is still at his core a vampire. So
half
vampire. So while he has all of like the benefits of a vampire, none of the weaknesses, still he's a vampire. And I think that even with his advanced combat tactics, I mean, I think, you've got, again, it depends on which mythology you go through, because silver in the Witcher universe is strong against most monsters, whereas typically silver is useful against werewolves, not necessarily vampires. Vampires is the old stake through the heart thing. But I think Geralt would, again, has those sort of things, Blade D Cochran 84, welcome. Blade does have guns that usually balances things.
That is correct. It's a very, very solid point.
Yeah. If he has guns, I'm going to put him as an advantage against Geralt.
All right, that's a +1 right there.
But if there are no guns, if it's straight swords,
right,
and
hand-to-hand combat or bladed weapons.
Yeah. That's a good question. Slotty asked if one of the signs could absorb a bullet, because I know he does have stuff that can protect it, but I mean, how many bullets?
And are they hollow tip?
Yeah, right? Because that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
I would think their sword skills would probably be evenly matched.
Yeah.
And I think Geralt would have, obviously, potions at his disposal that he could use.
I feel like Geralt also comes prepared.
Yeah.
Like, he comes ready to fuck.
Yeah.
He knows what he's getting up against. That video that you kind of showed me, that trailer for The Witcher 3, he knows going in. He's like, all right, so I probably am not going to be able to outpace this one. So they're going to bite me, and I need to be ready for that. And so I'm going to put acid in my veins, basically. Yeah. I'm going to almost sacrifice myself, but then inevitably it will kill them.
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada. He gets through it. I feel like he knows his enemy. He comes prepared.
Yeah.
Or he can adapt very quickly.
Well, that's what I think is he has that stuff as disposal to then improvise as needed in those sorts of regards. And his knowledge and understanding of those kinds of creatures. Also, he has an amulet that, like, it shakes whenever there's monsters nearby. So the idea of Blade getting a jump on him would be unlikely because it lets him know. I don't know if it's monsters or if it's magic. It's one of those things. Essentially, like... In the trailer we watched, it was very briefly, but as he's walking through that barn, his necklace is shaking because it's like there's something here.
Well, you're presuming Blade's a monster. I think he's just misunderstood.
Hey, it's okay. He's got shit in his veins, It is what it is.
He's got poopy veins.
He's got poopy ass veins.
Yeah, I will say this. The only reason that I would go really lean towards Geralt is the fact that it says here, in Dracula's Gauntlet, Blade and Deadpool are surrounded by monsters, and Blade threatens to turn into a bat and leave Deadpool to die there. He should know Deadpool don't die. So he's an idiot. Done.
Yeah. He may have all vampire powers, but he feels conflicted about using the ones that make him seem less human. So that's a flaw right there, That's
a flaw, right. And if Geralt has...
if Jerry over there,
Yeah. If Geralt has high intellectual intelligence, I feel like he's going to play.
Yeah, I think
so.
I think here's the thing too: is I think it's a fun match to watch.
Yes,
because these two will be very crafty. Jerry of Riverdance.
That's the one.
I think it's a very close match. I think it doesn't end unsimilarly from that trailer where he walks away very beat up, like very wounded. But I think because of the magic he has at his disposal, the potions, the different oils and things like that, even in the show when he fights the Striga in the crypts, he has an idea of what to do, but it didn't necessarily work the way they wanted. He was able to improvise. He was able to, make it happen. Like he's he can take a beating and he can do really well. And I think, it shows he's also a very accomplished swordsman, accomplished swordsman. So if Blade's best offense is a sword, I feel like that's a wash. So.
Right. And the other thing too is, I think he has a far broader experience range than Blade does. Like he has fought monsters that Blade probably's never even heard of, quite frankly. Blade can go up against Lycans and he can go up against vampires, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Or at least that's all we've seen him go up against. So
yeah.
In the movies, I don't know. I haven't read the comics. Maybe some nerd out there will correct me, but I feel like we got to call this one. I think we're both on the same page here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Geralt of Riverdale for the win!
See, what happens is Blade, they're having this very epic, sword fight, and he stabs Geralt right in the shoulder, and he's like pinning him down. He's talking shit, and at the very last minute, Geralt basically turns
to him and says, "You should have aimed for the head."
And then just slashes him, like cuts his head off with his silver sword, and he beats him. That's exactly what happens. Yeah.
Crossover. and then he snaps his fingers. The Reality Stone changes everything back, and it's actually Thanos.
Yeah, it's true. It was really Thanos the whole time.
Yep. You're not wrong, Married with Gaming.
You got it, Married with Gaming. You got it.
Yep.
Very good. It was still a cool line, He doesn't own he doesn't copyright that line,
Yeah. Wolf's Lore says this would be, yes, if we had a throwdown where it was Blade versus the entire cast of the Underworld, Blade would clean
I'd
house.
give it to
Without a
Blade.
doubt.
Yeah.
Clean house. Yes.
I'd give that to Blade. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd also give it to Geralt.
Right.
Oh.
Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff, man. That was really good. And this was fun, chat. So much fun. So much fun
You
going
guys were
through
a
this
blast
stuff.
tonight. Thank you for joining us for the bonus episode.
The bonus, because there won't be
It's
one next week. So
Right.
glad
It's
you're
a
here.
normal episode if you're listening to the podcast.
Yeah.
Ignore the word bonus. But
Yeah.
for Twitch, this was a bonus one this week.
So Justin, what do you got to recommend, man?
I am going to recommend so on Hulu, very interesting. I won't make it too political, but it's called The Killing of Breonna Taylor. It's a very interesting documentary. For me, it lays out very clearly the events and the timeline of that night, and it also makes me very curious about what just came out about that, the settlement and what will and will not be admitted to, and what's being put into place in Louisville. So it's on Hulu. It's called The Killing of Breonna Taylor. If you're at all interested in kind of knowing a little bit more about that night, I would definitely say check it out. And then on a lighter note, on Netflix, I would check out. Doug has been singing this man's praises for many a moon. Mike Birbiglia. I've watched Thank God for Jokes, and I've watched the new one. I know there's 2 more on there that I need to get to. I've watched. Not Sleepwalk with Me. What was the other one?
Oh, there's
improv.
Oh yeah. Oh crap. Don't think twice.
Don't Think Twice. That's the one. Yes. Or yeah. So Don't Think Twice. Yeah. So I've watched that movie. I need to go back and watch Sleepwalk with Me. But I'm becoming a pretty big Mike Birbiglia fan. So I would say go check out his stand-ups. He's very far gentler than I thought he was going to be comedically. I thought it was he's like a if Pete Holmes is PG, Mike Birbiglia is PG-13.
Yeah, Birbiglia is a master storyteller, and he basically typically what I've seen the last few specials is he tells one main story throughout the whole special, but he weaves in the jokes as he goes along. Right. He takes off these tangents and then brings you back, and it's such an enjoyable experience. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so good, and most of his stuff is really heartfelt and comes from a really interesting place. And so
he's very honest too.
Yeah.
Like in the new one, he talks very much about why he didn't want to be a father, why he thought he'd be bad at it, how he got convinced to do it, and like the story of that. And it's very, again, brutally honest. And I love the relationship that he and his wife have.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's really good stuff. So I will definitely back that up. That's a wonderful, wonderful comedian. He's phenomenal. So highly recommend him. I'm going to recommend again Alex Melton on YouTube. He's
such a crush on this
I got
guy.
a boner for this guy. He's a musician. He's on YouTube. He does a lot of really cool covers. He's one of those guys that does what if this band did this song, or like some of the favorite ones that I've seen him do is like he does quick clips of what if Blink-182 wrote Free Falling. And then he did it for Fall Out Boy. He did it for The Wonder Years. He did it for I forget all of one, but he basically did the same clip of a song for all these different artists. And then he's done country versions of pop punk songs. He does pop punk versions of just pop songs. He does really cool stuff. So I'm a huge fan of him. Go check him out on YouTube. It's Alex Melton. It's ALEX MELTON. I think he's a delight. And if you're into that sort of vein of music, it's the best. He did a goddamn country version of Blink-182's First Date, and I fucking like it. And I'm so mad that I like it. It's phenomenal. It just makes me mad.
I know it does, and I'm so sorry it makes you mad.
It's like there's a universe where I would love this.
There's another cover that he did. I don't know if you've heard it. It goes...
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah. He does a great cover to Trapped.
Yeah.
Headstrong.
Yep, exactly.
I'm so glad you brought that back.
Such a wonderful song.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
Yeah.
So gang, don't forget, you can always follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/MindGapPodcast. Drop us a like. Come hang out with us. We record our episodes live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central. And also Saturday nights, 8 p.m. Central Time, we do our video game stream. So Come hang out with us. We do silly shit. We have a good time. We love chatting with you. We have an amazing community that we're growing here. Some awesome people. They're the goddamn best. And Wolf's Lord. Man, Trap's a band I haven't heard in a minute. You missed an episode where we talked a lot about him. So you're welcome. But yeah, you guys can check us out on Twitch. We love that. And you know what? I think it's okay to say this. We got our first check from Twitch. So super big thanks to everyone who's subscribed.
Yeah, you guys are helping us keep this going, and it is beyond. We're humbled and we're beyond appreciative. So thank you so much.
Seriously, from the bottom of our hearts, it's amazing. The people that subscribe, the people that cheer with bits and everything like that. I mean, it's really, really cool. Like it feels good to finally to get that and be like, huh, cool. Like this there's a monetary value to this. Not that it needs to be, but it's nice to kind of be rewarded, for what you're doing. So thank you all for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was very, very cool. Also, don't forget to follow us on all our social medias at MindGap Podcast on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Also, be sure to like and subscribe us on YouTube. We put full episodes there, as well as highlights from the episodes, highlight from our video game streams, as well as some of the video stuff that we do. So go check us out there. And don't forget to follow Justin on the interwebs as well.
On Instagram and Twitter at Justin_Michael, spelled Mikel. It's the fun way of spelling it. While you're in the online realm, check us out on
Spotify
and on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, all the, Flick Your Bean, all the things that you can find us on. Like us, share us, subscribe, rate, review, all those good things. The big one is sharing. Sharing is caring. So copy that link, post it to your socials, tell your groups, your throngs of followers to also follow us and say, you'll like these guys. It's got my stamp of approval. And that goes a long way. 2east8th.com/mindgap. And then keep an eye on all 2 East 8th's social places, because things are a-coming.
Just like when you eat some really good Chinese food off that Chinese buffet, there's something bubbling. And pretty soon, it's coming out.
We'll get to the butt in a second.
He gets it. So, with that, I say, Justin, thank you.
Douglas, many thanks to you.
Twitch, as always, a thank you.
The OG listeners, thank you.
And have a dandy fucking week.
Mind Gap Podcast.